Hey guys, my name's Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. This is episode number 1 of Proxy Talk. In this episode, we're going to talk about my proxy's recent decision to unvote EOS Nation and why. I'm going to talk about one token, one vote, 30 votes per token, exchanges voting with user funds without their explicit opt-in permission, and hopes for the future with governance and Block One's EOS vote proxy. Thanks for joining me. A little background, a little history here. So the EOS mainnet booted up and we had a lot of, in my opinion, great BPs running the show. And we still have many good BPs running the show. But things have changed since that point till now. And that's fine. Evolution is natural. However, not all change is necessarily for the better. And what we saw early on, within, about a year of the mainnet launching, was vote trading, vote collusion, sock puppet BPs, and other types of manipulation. And that's to be expected. These attempts are to be expected of any governance and any blockchain because everyone's out trying to make a buck, trying to make the most profit, and basically trying to exploit the system. And the true test of any blockchain is, can it weather the attempts at exploitation? And EOS has, I would say, not done the best in this regard. And I'm just trying to keep this very real and very as I see it. This is my opinion only. And I understand that this can be a very heated and controversial subject. I expect that some BPs are not going to like what I say here. And again, I'm just expressing my opinion. I'm not a BP. I don't have the daily pay from vote pay or block reward pay that a BP does. So I don't necessarily have the same interests that they do. I don't need to defend my self-preservation because I'm not getting paid by the system. In fact, I'm not getting paid by the system at all because even on my rewards proxy and on my regular proxy, both of them do not pay me a dime. So I literally do everything I do on EOS 100% voluntarily and purely as a token holder. And that's all I do. So I think that that should count for something because I'm just pointing out the fact that my incentives and my alignment are that of a token holder only. And someone who might fault the statements I'm going to make in this audio perhaps has other alignments and other interests to protect. So I just want that to be kind of the disclaimer before I go off on my rant here. So about a year after the mainnet launched, we had started to see some manipulations of the governance on EOS. And we saw the East starting to form cartels. And we started seeing some sock puppet BPs even pop up. And I had ousted a group of 6 of those early on. And I don't know to this day. I think there probably still are sock puppet BPs out there. I don't know who they are. If they've done it, they've done a good job of hiding it. And frankly, I'm not really interested in playing mother to these BPs anymore. That's not my job. The blockchain needs to be able to be self-sufficient governance-wise. And if you've listened to me for the past year or two, that's pretty much all I've harped on. How do we improve governance? And I went from making EOS mega updates and being extremely enthusiastic on the subject of the blockchain to making updates on governance and how can we fix it. And if that itself doesn't go to show you the shift I've had on things, then I don't know what does. So it's not to say that I'm not still enthusiastic about the blockchain, but the aspect of governance specifically, to this day, I think does need improvement. And that shouldn't be anything new to anyone listening to this. So we started seeing some BPs like Bitfinex, Huobi, OKEX, there's others, who are exchanges, and they voted themselves into top 21 positions with user funds. And that was the first glaring red flag I had on governance in EOS. Exchanges were voting themselves into power with tokens that they didn't purchase. And delegated proof of stake is supposed to be a system in which votes carry financial weight. It's a plutocracy. Those with the financial investment are those who get to make the decision because they obviously would care more than someone who isn't financially invested. And yet we have a violation of that with exchanges such as those I've mentioned and perhaps others, who began to vote with user funds. And that violates the system because the exchanges did not purchase those tokens. They're merely a custodian of those tokens. Therefore, they could get millions, tens of millions, or billions of dollars worth of token control for free. And then they vote themselves into power, into top 21 block producing positions, and get vote pay and block pay as a result. And to me, that's not DPoS, that's not fair, that's not honest, and that's not correct aligned incentives. And I think that Block One has sort of avoided that topic and sidestepped it initially and sort of allowed it. Not that they can stop it, but I don't feel that they were necessarily outspoken enough about it at all, especially in the beginning. Now fast forward, and we have Block One finally, 2 years later, saying, okay, we're going to make this proxy, which they've done. It has 85 million votes, but no votes for any BPs yet. And we're going to set a standard that must be upheld to be included in our vote. And we have yet to see that. But this is where they have a chance to make good on the alignment that BPs should have when being voted into top 21 block producing positions. They should absolutely not be voted into top 21 block producing positions by custodian control of user tokens that they did not purchase and that they do not have personal ownership of. Custodial ownership of tokens does not entitle you to voting yourself into a top 21 position. I'm sorry, that's a violation of DPoS, that's a violation of plutocracy. And there's been arguments that, you know, the user ultimately has control and say. It's a free market of where he puts his tokens, and if he does that, if he consents, then that's his consent. He essentially voted for the block producers as a proxy. And I think that's, as I said in previous videos, I don't want to rehash this too much. I think that's a bit of a logical fallacy because a user needs certain conveniences. And so they need to have their tokens on an exchange if they want to trade them. And suddenly they are giving that exchange control of their tokens, which then that exchange can vote themselves into a top 21 position using that custodial control of those tokens. And so certain users don't care, frankly. And if they do care, they might outweigh that with the convenience enabled by having their tokens on an exchange. So I don't think that's a fair statement to make. Anyways, so we started seeing the Eastern BPs forming cartels and using the 30 votes per token, which to this day I think is one of the biggest mistakes that EOS governance has had, to vote their friends in and to exchange votes with their brethren, their other BPs who agree to collude in kind with them. And so what you have is these groups of block producers who say, you know, Joe, if you vote for me, I'll vote for you. And they repeat that 30 times, and suddenly you have an unstoppable group of 30 BPs who have voted themselves in round robin, and no one can outvote them. And to get into the top 21, currently, you essentially have to agree to participate with these rules. You have to agree to be a part of this round robin of votes because of the 30 votes that each token enables. And that's why I've always expressed that we need to get rid of the 30 votes per token. So this brings us back to the topic of I've unvoted for EOS Nation. Now, why did I unvote for EOS Nation? Now, this is a very mixed opinion because voting for a block producer is a very nuanced subject. There are many factors to take note of. There's geographic location, decentralization on a geographic basis. Like, are there too many BPs in the East? Or do we need more in USA? Or do we need more in Africa? And so that's one factor. There's the technical competence, and there's the communication. You know, do they put out good communication? Do they stay connected to the token holders? Are they savvy with technology? Do they maintain their nodes? Do they update to the newest version? And that kind of thing. And then lastly, there's, do they uphold the best interests of the token holder? Do they uphold the proper ideals for governance, or do they not? Or do they only look out for themselves in their pocketbook? And it's actually natural to expect that they would only look out for themselves. That's the nature of mining, and that's the nature of being a node operator, is being greedy secures the network. And that's the way it works on Bitcoin, and that's really the way it works on EOS as well. Now, it's short-sighted greediness, because if they put their greed at the sacrifice of long-term benefit, then they are shooting themselves in the foot. But historically, it has been shown that basically miners and block producers don't seem to care about the long term in all regards, as long as they get that payout, that initial payout, and as long as they cement themselves into a top 21 block producing position. So originally, the East was the one that sort of formed these cartels, and the West was very much opposed to it. And I remember all these Western-based VPs abstaining from participating in similar collusion and vote trading. And block producers like EOS Authority and EOS New York were very, very apprehensive about vote rewarding for paying for votes and trading votes and all that stuff. And what happened is that the very first block producer from the West was EOS Nation to participate in this previously Eastern-only behavior. And I understand why, because they weren't able to compete due to the 30 votes per token nature that the exploit allows. And EOS Nation was the first one, in my opinion, to allow its moral compass to become misguided. Whereas other BPs were like, no, we know, even though the East is doing this, we're not going to do this. Now, at the end of the day, that cut their throats because they weren't willing to play in the same terms as the rest of the Eastern BPs who were willing to do whatever it takes. Whatever the blockchain allows is what they would do. Code is law. The blockchain allowed 30 votes. It allowed voting in their friends and round robin and cartels. So they did it. And so from a very literal standpoint and a very code standpoint, they did nothing wrong whatsoever. And so EOS Nation took the same approach. And just as a fun fact, in a private conversation between me and Eve of EOS Nation, before they had even started their proxy, or their multiple proxies, and I did have my proxy, Eve said, hey man, and this is paraphrased, these other block producers from the East are handing you an offer on like a silver platter. They're making you a good offer. You should take this up. And this was when the BPs like EOS Lambda Com were trying to get me to trade votes with them and to include me in their inner circle. And I exposed this. If you remember, I shared the EOS Lambda vote trading offer to me and to try to bribe me and to control all of its votes. And I said no. And interestingly enough, Eve said, hey, man, I think you're basically missing a big offer here. They're trying to make you a good deal. And I said, no, thanks. And I moved on. But interestingly, a few months later, EOS Nation formed a proxy and, from what I can tell, took up the offer that I was offered and immediately voted into place all of these block producers that were, in my opinion, violating the best interests of token holders and were violating the best practices for governance. And EOS Nation voted in every single one of those BPs, like EOS Huobi and Bitfinex and OKEX, every single one of those that had been voting with user funds. And I called them out on this on Twitter, and actually Eve contacted me and he said, hey man, why are you like talking bad about our proxy? And I kind of felt bad, like, okay, and I deleted the tweet. And he would say that basically he felt that they were adding value. And that was basically the way he defended his stance and the way he defended the votes that the EOS Nation proxy took. And I was like, I guess I can't really fault his personal choice if he thinks they're truly adding value. But deep in my gut, what I feel is that that's an excuse. And I feel that to this day, and maybe I think that Eve doesn't genuinely think he's doing anything wrong. I think that perhaps he just follows in line with the East, the Eastern mindset. I think that he just goes along with it. The code allows what it allows, so therefore he's going to do it. And he doesn't think there's anything necessarily bad in regards to how governance is being handled that way. And I do. And I guess that's where I'll put the difference. I do think that there could be improvements on governance, and I don't think that voting with user tokens is okay. And so that's where the difference lies. No personal bad feelings to Eve himself, but I think that that's where our difference lies. He just strictly goes in code is law, and the code allows it, and plus he has the personal incentive as daily pay as a block producer to put himself into a top 21 position. And it worked, you know, his strategy worked. It got him in the top 21 position. Not only did it get him in the top 20 position, it got him in the like top 5 position for a long time. I think even to this day, I haven't looked recently, but I think he's in the top 5 block producers. And not only that, he's almost become the bridge between the East and the West, and sort of like, I would consider like the king of block producers among EOS, because what he says goes, and he's managed to very intelligently group together the block producers and sort of embrace the governance model such that he's okay with exchanges voting with tokens. And because he's okay with that, and he doesn't stand up against it, and he's embraced it, in fact, he then gets included in that inner circle. And that's what a lot of other really good VPs did not do. They didn't embrace that inner circle cartel, but EOS Nation did. And just for the record, I think there's some really good members on EOS Nation. I am not trying to attack them. I'm not trying to slight them. I'm just speaking how I feel, truly from the heart. And I want it to be very clear that I agree that exchanges do add value to the ecosystem. They add liquidity and volume and on-ramps and off-ramps. But that's true of every coin in existence. And just because an exchange offers a coin, in my opinion, does not entitle it to a seat at the round table of governance of a blockchain, especially when it's achieving that seat by voting itself in with user tokens. So Huobi and Bitfinex and these other exchanges absolutely add value, but I would argue that one of the most important aspects of the blockchain, which is governance, is detracted by their actions in governance, by voting with user funds without explicit opt-in permission. And to me, that outweighs the benefit that they're bringing to the table. And to me, that's why I don't consider them as value adding as some of these other BPs who may not happen to be exchanges, but are also doing tremendous work. So here we are. We have EOS Nation has a couple proxies. They're highly, highly voted proxies. And my stance is still the same. It is not okay for exchanges to vote with user tokens without explicit opt-in permission on their behalf. Just because a user sends their tokens to an exchange because that user wants some liquidity or wants to be able to trade them or sell them or whatever does not, in my opinion, make it okay for an exchange to vote with those tokens, and in fact violates the principles of DPoS for reasons I've already mentioned in this video. So for EOS Nation to support those block producers, I think is wrong. And I think that Block One kind of gets it based on all the noise I've made. And they've said, you know, we're going to make standards for vote inclusion in our proxy. And that's something that EOS Nation has not done. Instead, EOS Nation has embraced the manipulation. And so I've decided to take a stand against that. And so that's the reason for unvoting for EOS Nation. It's not because I think that they're technically incompetent. Far from that. They're actually one of the most technically competent BPs. They've got incredible communication skills, and they've got an incredible team. And don't let that be mistaken. I do not want my action to speak negatively to those aspects of their block producer. They do an incredible job on every area except for their moral compass and their stance on voting for exchanges that manipulate governance. And that I'm not okay with. And I've been okay with it for so long, and I think that it's because of those positive things. It's a moral dilemma for a proxy as myself to unvote someone when they do so many good things and so many right things, which EOS Nation absolutely does and has done. They've done incredible things for the blockchain. And yet there's this one glaring red flag that sticks out like a sore thumb that I cannot just ignore any longer. And I realized recently, and the reason I'm recording this, is that if I don't take a stance against that, then no one's going to take a stance against that. Voters are the way that change occurs on the blockchain. And Block One hopefully is going to follow suit. And then maybe eventually EOS Nation will follow suit per force, because suddenly the pressure is against them to take into account the wishes of token holders in regards to governance on EOS. So that's the reason for the unvoting. I've decided that I need to take an action. The only way that I can have a voice and the only way that I can give my voters to these proxies a voice in the matter is by casting votes. And so if I don't like some behavior, I need to vote with my feet and I need to vote with these tokens. And if you support this behavior as a token holder, please vote for these proxies, the Colin T Crypto and the Colin Rewards EOS vote proxies. And if you don't like the stance that I'm taking here, then you are absolutely free to unvote. You know, it's totally fine. I don't care. Like, I don't get paid. Like I said, I don't get paid for doing this. It takes my time and my effort, and I do it free and voluntarily. So if you don't give me your vote, it doesn't mean anything to me because I don't get paid for it. It does mean something to EOS Nation because they do get paid with these votes. So by cutting these votes, I'm cutting a slice of their daily vote pay. And that's how I take a stance. And that's how I have a voice. And that's how I give you guys voices. So vote with your feet. If you support this message, vote for my proxy. If you don't, unvote for my proxy. And that's totally fine. And one final note that I'm aware of is that because EOS Nation started this process off of voting for exchanges that vote with user funds, other BPs out of desperation followed suit. So there's a bit of a hypocritical situation here that I'm aware of, where if I unvote for EOS Nation, well, then shouldn't I unvote for Gen or EOS, for example, or other block producers who also vote for these exchanges that vote with user funds? The arrangement I made with Gen or EOS is that because they helped design my vote reward proxy, is that I would give them a discount on the fees required to be a member of that proxy. And they never took that offer up. And so it's a little bit of a dilemma because Gen or EOS has come to do the same thing that EOS Nation has done, although they waited and waited and waited much longer to do this. And Gen or EOS is such an incredible BP as well. So it's a bit of a moral dilemma here. So I'm starting with an unvote for EOS Nation. In a private conversation with Gen or EOS as well, I brought this up and I told them this. I had attention on this, and that was like a moral dilemma for me. And they said to me that they understood completely and that they were not intending for this to be a lasting thing, and that they would unvote for Huobi and these other exchanges that are BPs voting with user funds. And so I'm going to take a look at who they're voting for after this voice message. And if they are voting for a number of BPs that are, I would consider, manipulating governance by voting with user funds without explicit opt-in permission, then I'm going to consider also unvoting for Gen or EOS. And that's a hell of a conundrum because they designed my rewards proxy. So you can see the dilemma I'm in here, you know, but the only way to make yourself heard is by casting a vote or not casting a vote. And that's the dilemma, and that's the position I'm in right now. You know, if you step back and you think, is Colin an asshole for doing this, or does Colin care about EOS? All I can say, speaking from my heart and my free conscience, is that the reason I'm leaving this long-ass voice message here, and the reason that I'm doing this unvoting of these BPs, is because I truly care about EOS so damn much that I want it to come out right. And so, you know, just like EOS Nation thought that they were the first to have to compromise with the morals and vote for the BPs who aren't doing the best thing for the EOS ecosystem, well, I'm going to be the first one that votes with my feet and unvotes for the BPs that are compromising the governance of the EOS ecosystem. And I do hope that in the long run, we see Block 1 putting in similar requirements, and we see a shift as a result of all these tokens. If you take the tokens from my proxy and you take the tokens from Block 1's proxy, we have about 110 million voting tokens. That's well over 20% of the active voting supply. At a guess, that's probably 22, 23% of active voting tokens. And I hope that if we are in alignment, Block 1 and myself, with the stringent requirements of not allowing exchanges to vote with user funds without explicit opt-in permission, I hope that we can make a shift. And then we'll have BPs who seem to be influenceable morally following suit. And then we'll have BPs like EOS Nation and Gen or EOS changing their mind and going, you know what? We aren't going to vote for those BPs unless they change their policies about voting with user tokens, because we're going to lose funds if we don't do so. And that was what incentivized them from day one, was the money. And so the money is going to be the thing that incentivizes them to change their opinion, if anything does, at the end. And so here I am voting with my feet, and I hope you appreciate my efforts. And as I've stated in my recent video, if you see a BP, such as EOS Nation or other, proclaiming that one token, one vote doesn't fix anything or doesn't make anything better, just keep in mind that their entire pay and their entire model They've structured their entire business model on 30 votes per token. That's their entire business model. Because without it, EOS Nation would not be in top 21 position, most likely. They were outside the top 21 before they started their proxy. And the only way they got in the top 21 was by compromising morally, voting in exchanges that vote with user funds, receiving that round robin cartel vote, and rising themselves up the rank. And so I just want to point out the incentives. There is an incentive to not like one token, one vote for some BPs. And a lot of the good BPs that are out of the top 21 are there because simply they had too high of morals, too high of an ethical stance, and they weren't willing to compromise on that. And that's really unfortunate. So my heart goes out to you BPs that, were solid and good BPs and are to this day and simply aren't getting paid because you didn't lower your standards so much like some of the other BPs in the top 21 positions. I want to end off this video with an open invite, an invitation to EOS Nation to be revoted by my proxies, both of them, once they have removed BPs that are very questionable in their voting practices, specifically voting with user funds on their behalf without explicit user opt-in permission. If EOS Nation does that, completely up to them. Their voting is up to them. But if they do that, I am more than happy to vote again for them because, as I said, I do recognize they are an awesome BP for many other reasons. They are technically one of the most advanced BPs. They're knowledgeable, they have great social communication, and I like a lot of their team. So I look forward to having you on board again, and I hope to reunite in the future. And I hope you don't think I'm too much of an asshole or hate me too much for just standing up for what I believe in is right. Thanks, guys. I hope you're doing well. Have a great day.